Hi, this is Andy, G0RVM. With the recent release of SPE Expert Controller for macOS version 1.2 and its capability to use a TCP/IP interface and to communicate with an amplifier using a third-party network to serial adapter, I thought it'd be really useful just to talk about those adapters a little bit more, about the capabilities that are required to enable them to work with SPE Expert Controller, some of the wiring that's necessary, just to give that sort of overview and background to set the context for these things. The software that often comes with these adapters is either Microsoft Windows only, or it seems to work with much earlier versions of macOS. That's certainly typical of the adapters that are sort of fairly low cost and available from Amazon. There are some higher quality and equally more expensive adapters which do appear on paper anyway to come with software that will work with macOS. I've found that it's normally slightly older versions of macOS, and the manufacturers are playing a little bit sort of loose and fast with what they claim on their websites. So that's not to say that their software won't work with macOS and the latest versions of macOS, but it's much easier to find adapters that come with Microsoft Windows software, which for us Mac users is of not much use at all. So that's the kind of rationale for why I've put this capability into SPE Expert Controller to communicate directly with an adapter and not needing any additional software to be installed on the Mac. In terms of requirements for a serial network adapter, it's really that it supports a mode which they seem to call TCP server mode. It's a mode where anything an adapter receives on its network interface, it passes transparently to its serial interface, and vice versa. Anything on its serial interface, it passes directly to its network interface. In that mode, the network to serial adapter will await incoming connections from a client, in this case SPE Expert Controller, and once that connection is established on the network interface, then that transparent exchange of data between serial and network interfaces is conducted until the client disconnects from the serial adapter. That's the primary requirement of these adapters, is that it has something like a TCP/IP server mode. The second requirement that isn't essential, but is certainly very, very beneficial, is that the adapter can be configured via a web interface. The adapters I've sort of identified in research all seem to support this. They run a little web server which you can connect to with Safari or whatever web browser you prefer using, and configure it. So you can configure the baud rate, the number of data bits, parity, stop bits, all of those sort of things for the serial interface. But you can also configure its IP address and the port on which it will listen for incoming connections. Okay, so my unit, the unit I actually chose, was one of these units. If I switch across to that, there we go. So it's from a company called WaveShare. The reason I chose this particular unit was it came in a nice little metal box. It was low cost. It was readily available from Amazon, and it could be powered from the Ethernet, so it had a PoE capability. So the unit I actually went for was this one here with the green patch on the side. They do supply a version with a blue patch, which is the one that cannot be powered from the Ethernet cable. Your choice. Apart from that, they should operate exactly the same. The unit was that one. So I'm obviously in the UK, so you can see that it costs £31.99, but I would expect these to be available wherever you are in the world. There are others available as well. Oh, yeah, here we go. So there is this unit which is available on Amazon as well. It's here, £30, so it's slightly cheaper. I don't believe it has a PoE capability though, but it claims a TCP server mode, and it can be configured via a web interface, so it should work just fine. But again, I haven't tried it, but I believe it should work. Another unit from a more reputable manufacturer are these N-port adapters. They do a 5110A, which is a single RS-232 port, and again, I believe that should work just fine. It's significantly more expensive, but it seems to have much better documentation. Excuse me. It seems to have much better documentation, and one can only hope that the build quality is also much better. But I know these ones are used professionally as well. I just felt a lower priced unit was more accessible to me. So there's some of the other units that are available, which you could choose to use, but there are many other manufacturers out there. So as long as it supports a TCP server mode and you can configure its configuration, preferably via a web-based interface, then that should be good. Right, finally, I'd like to just talk about the wiring of the serial cable, the physical pinouts, because the SPE Expert amplifier is using a non-standard pinout. This is from the SPE documentation, and these are the pins, assuming you have a DB9 connector on the serial adapter that you would need to connect. I have a picture here, which is how I've got mine just wired up for the sake of testing. Now, what I really must stress here is this is a 25-pin connector. Excuse me. And therefore, the actual pinouts are slightly different to a 9-pin connector, and therefore it gets confusing. But essentially, there are 3 wires that you need on this serial cable. Is transmit data, receive data, and a ground connection, signal ground connection. On this 25-pin connector, you can see that from the serial adapter, I've connected pin 2 to pin 5, and I've connected pin 3 to pin 4, and 7 to 7, which is the ground connection. Now, that is the 25-pin connector. So don't try and apply those numbers to a 9-pin connector. If you have a look at the pinouts for the 9-pin connector, they're documented here. Now the serial adapter will undoubtedly be, or it should certainly be anyway, a DTE, a male connector plug. And on the amplifier we have a socket. Unfortunately, it's not wired as a standard DCE, standard space DCE. So you need this a little patch box, or you need to make up preferably a bespoke cable. Just to help me do this, I created a little table which basically says, if you're using a DB9 connector on the serial adapter and the 9-pin connector on the back of the amplifier, then you need to connect pin 2 to pin 7 and pin 3 to pin 8 and pin 5 to pin 5 for the ground connection. If for some reason you're using a DB25 connector, then these are the wiring, the pinouts that you would need: pin 3 to pin 4, pin 2 to pin 5, 7 to 7. Or if you've got some combination of the two, I'm sure you can work that out from the information in that table. But I'm hopeful that will be of benefit to someone out there. That's it, I think. So that's the content of the video. So thank you for watching. I hope you did find this useful. Please like, subscribe, do all that usual YouTube stuff. Leave a comment below, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you very much.